Hello, welcome to episode 132 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today is the 10th of September, so welcome everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely crafty week, and I'm here to share all the things that I've been making in the last 7 days. So today I have some knitting, some crochet to show you. I have some sewing, which includes some dressmaking and also some English paper piecing that I've been doing. I have some cross stitch, which I've made good progress on, so I'm excited to show you that. I have a couple of confessions, which isn't too bad, and a couple of questions from the Ask Me Anything thread. So you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry and Facebook as Craft House Magic, and I have my own website, crafthousemagik.co.uk, where you can find my handmade project bags such as fabrics, wadding, zips and cord, etc. So we have one craft along going on in the Ravelry group at the moment. So I did draw prizes for the summer sock along, and the winners I've posted into the end of the thread for the summer sock along. So if you do take part, do check your Ravelry messages to see if you're a winner. But we have got this new craft along, and it's going right up until the end of December, and it's a festive craft along, and it's called the CHM for Craft House Magic Gift Along 2020, and I'll put the hashtag on the bottom of the screen. And I'm running it not only on Ravelry but also on Instagram, so don't forget to tag this in if you're making anything to do with sort of the festive season, whether it be to do with Christmas or any other festivity. It's basically any sort of gifts, even gifts for yourself, because those are very important. So do come and join us, and it can be any craft at all, and it's open right up until the end of December, so do come and join us. There are a list of sort of rules which are quite flexible really in the Ravelry group, but again you can join in on Ravelry and on Instagram as well. If you're joining on Instagram, make sure you use the hashtag that I've put on the screen. So let's get on with the knitting, shall we? So I've sort of done a test knit for my lovely friend Lindsay from the Stitch Create Love podcast, but I've basically got Adam's mum to knit it up for me because I wanted to make sure that you guys got to see a little sample of what this looks like knitted up. This is Dance Like No One's Watching Cowl by Lindsay, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It's got such a beautiful lacy pattern on there, and it's inspired in 2 yarns held together, which makes it a beautiful fluffy texture. Let's see if I can get up a bit closer so you can see that. You can't really see quite how lovely and soft it is, but this is absolutely gorgeous. So it's 2 yarns held together. I've used an undyed merino and nylon 4-ply base, and then I've combined it with a Siri alpaca and silk lace weight yarn. So if I pop those together, it makes a lovely fluffy texture. So I asked my mother-in-law Liz to knit this up for me because I don't always have time. But isn't that lovely? So the colourway of the Siri alpaca and silk is called bubblegum colourway, and I thought just to sort of keep it toned down, to make it not too sort of brightly coloured, I'd use a undyed yarn with it as well, and I think that looks really lovely. So again, Lindsay said she's going to release the pattern at the end of September, so watch out for that. I will block this and then show it on the podcast again when it has been released to remind you guys when it's available, but I think that's absolutely lovely. And there's some beautiful delicate lace patterns in there. So next I have to show you a sample of my advent wrap. So if you do not want to see what the advent wrap's going to look like, skip along to the timestamp on the screen if you don't want to see that. So basically it's a pattern that I'm going to release sort of at the end of November, and if you've already purchased one of the advent calendars, it will come free with that as well. But I will release it as a separate thing if you didn't get a chance to pick up one of those. The first sample I showed you a couple of weeks ago was in a blue yarn, so I thought it'd be nice to do it in a sort of set of purple. So of course there's lots of tassels on it. I'll have to sit back a bit so you can see all of this, but they were basically lots of pinks and purples out of my stash, and then at the end there's lots and lots of tassels on there, which I absolutely love. So I don't know if I can tell which of these yarns are. I know, I think this one here was hell, but I can't tell you what some of them are because I've picked them up without labels on, and they were just in my sort of stash of minis. And I think there might be some Nora George in there as well, but if they are, if I did know what they were, to be honest, because they've been in my stash quite a time, you wouldn't probably be able to get the same colourway anyway, because they've been in my stash at least a year, because I'm so naughty. So this is knitted with 12 20-gram balls. And we've got the tassels on show at the front. Too close to the camera really, and I've got all my hair tucked in as well, so it's not looking its best. But you get the idea. I need to titivate it a little bit, but I just love tassels, so I thought I would incorporate all the tassels I possibly could in my new pattern. So this one is all my purples. I did show you a couple of episodes ago the blue one. And I realised I actually know what some of these yarns are. So this is the blue version I showed you a couple of weeks ago, with all the tassels on the end. And there's lace sections throughout the shawl. There's not too many though, so, and you can always omit the lacy section if you didn't want to. But some of these I actually knew what the yarns were, so I think it was sort of, there may be some others in between, but quite a few of those ones are a Giddy Yarns mini set that I bought a little while ago, and this is called May Blooms. So there was lots of, I think there was 6 minis in there, and they were sort of blues and greens, and I think that they were the last ones to be knitted into the shawl, the wrap I should say, just there. And I think as well, these 2 yarns here are Blue Fern yarns that I forgot to mention as well, and that was bought relatively recently as well, so hopefully you'd be able to get hold of some of those. So that's the bluey turquoisey version, and again this is knitted with the same 12 20 grams, but I have actually written instructions for 24 20 grams as well as 10-gram minis as well, or scraps, if that's what you've got in your stash. So there we go, again showing all the tassels off. This one is plenty long enough, but if you really like long ones, then you might need your 24 20-gram ones to put together. But actually, once it's blocked, because I've used merino nylon anyway, it stretches out a little bit, and it's plenty long enough to drape around your neck like a scarf. But of course, if you didn't want to wear it like that, you could actually wear it like a wrap, as the name suggests, and just have it sort of round your shoulders like so. And I should do this with the purple one as well, to show you what that one looks like a bit better. I keep getting things stuck in my hair grips, it's not good. So there we go. Love these colours. Hopefully you'll be able to see the stripes around the back as well. So there we go, that's my wrap pattern. And again, if you've already purchased the advent calendar, that will be emailed to you towards the end of November, and it will be available at the end of November to purchase on Ravelry and on my website as well. So there we go, hopefully you've skipped through that if you wanted to keep it as a surprise, but there will be a knit along when the pattern is released, so that we can all knit our wraps together during sort of Advent season. So I have a new cast on to show you. I've been saying that I'm going to cast this on for ages and ages and ages, and it's not very big at the moment. I should do it this way because it looks more like a smile then. This is the Slumber Shawl by Stephen West, and it is basically supposed to be sort of an Aran weight shawl really, but I'm actually using DK for it because I thought it would make it slightly lighter weight, just because I think DK is plenty thick enough really. But it does say in the instruction sheet you can use DK, and you need, it says 300 to 400 gram skeins, so I have got 4 cakes ready to use, and I'm using 2 different colours, and I've started using Smells Like Teen Spirit already, which is this one, which is a nice turquoisey blue-green with splashes of pink and purple and a green in there as well. Then I'm going to fade it into this, which is Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. So I think that those will look really nice together. There we go. So as I've shown you, I've already started with Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it will fade into the sort of pinky peachy colour, and I'm very excited to knit that. That was actually pretty quick to knit. I think I've started it last night and I've already done quite a few rows there, and I found it was very addictive. I kept wanting to do another section, so there's different repeats of this bit. You can see that there's some eyelets in the centre there, and each one of those sort of repeats makes you want to start the next repeat, and then you can't stop. Hopefully I'll have put on a picture on the screen so you see what it's supposed to look like in the end, but I've been meaning to do that for ages, and it is on my Make 9 list, so that's good. I've been very well behaved. Oh dear. I have got some yarn purchases to show you that I'm going to modify those mittens that I was knitting on, but I will talk about that in the confessions section a little bit later. So next I have the crochet section, and I've done quite a lot on my corner to corner crochet blanket, which is so big I'm barely going to be able to show you. I think it's a bit crazy. So I hold it up like this. There's no screen left. So I'm basically doing a rectangle shape, and I think the last time I showed you, this was the corner that I turned, so I've done quite a lot around that corner. I think I've done about that much. So I've done that much since the last time I've showed you, but I've actually turned the other corner as well, because I wanted to do one side longer than the other. The other side is this long, so I haven't long turned the corner, but now the rows are getting shorter, which is always good. So the shorter side I think is this one, and it's just over, well, it's my full hand span, so it's quite a bit over 1 metre. That's the shorter side. And then the longer side is my hand span plus a bit. So plus about that bit at the end. So it's nearly square really, but it is a rectangle shape. But I love the way I can use all my little scraps up. I think it produces a nice texture. I have actually washed some of it, so the more recent sections here, you can see a more pronounced texture to the crochet stitches. Whereas if you look at the bit that has actually been washed, it's flattened out a little bit, but actually this section is now super soft once I've given it a wash, because I dropped hot chocolate on it. Oh dear. So I feel like I'm actually getting to the point where I might actually finish this in the next few months, hopefully. But I am trying to use up just scraps of yarn that I'm finishing up projects with. There is a large proportion of the last couple of rows that are the leftovers from the wraps that I've been doing, the Advent wrap patterns. So I'm using up those little scraps, which is brilliant. You don't have any little bits left over, and then they're not wasted, you see, which I love. I am holding, actually, let's show you the end. I'm holding 2 yarns double to knit this, 2 4-ply yarns, one that is undyed, a merino nylon undyed, and then whatever scraps that I've got left of 4-ply yarn in there as well. I'm basically using all different bases, as long as it's a similar thickness, so that it's consistent sort of thickness throughout. And I have a tutorial for the Magic Knot Ball, which I was using to crochet this from, but I've run out of my recent one, and that's why I'd sort of stopped for a bit, because I'd run out of my ball. But I have a tutorial that shows you how I make my Magic Knot Ball, knotting the yarns together so that you don't have to sew in lots of ends. And like I said, I'm just crocheting this 2 yarns at a time, which is relatively self-explanatory. And for this I'm using a 4mm Amore clover hook for this. I am contemplating about stocking the Amore crochet hooks in the shop because these are my favourite ones. I find that they're the most ergonomic for my hands because I do get sort of wrist ache if I use the ones without squishy handles on. So let me know what you think, and also as well, if I do stock them, shall I stock the full range of sizes, or shall I sort of keep between sort of 2mm and 6mm? That's what I was thinking of stocking, because of course I tend to crochet a lot with the 4-ply yarns and the DKs, so I think that that would sort of cover those weights. So do let me know what you think. So now I'm going to do the sewing section. So Barbara, would you like to pop over and show us what you've got on? Thank you very much, Barbara. So Barbara is wearing my new Joni dress. So the Joni dress is a jersey dress pattern by Tilly and the Buttons, and this is out of Tilly and the Buttons stretch book, which has quite a few really nice patterns. And actually, incidentally, it's got my favourite t-shirt pattern, which is the Frankie t-shirt, which I've made absolutely loads of. And I've been wanting to make this dress for ages. I've just not got round to tracing the pattern out because the pattern pieces come with the book, and rather than getting them printed out, I need to trace them off the original pattern pieces. And I love it. I love this dress. So I did make a few modifications before I even started. I did an extra inch on the back of the skirt. So here I added an extra inch of length to go over my bum. And I also added an inch of length in the bust area to give me a little bit of extra space. And I thought, because it's a jersey dress, I'm sure that that 1 inch will be enough. But actually, I don't think it was. But I've made some more modifications and another version I've got to show you. The Joni dress has got this very gorgeous little twist at the top of the bust here. It has this front panel is actually all cut as one piece, and then you join this bit at the bottom here because it's a weird shape. So this is what you cut out on the fold. I have made some modifications which I'll explain in a minute. But this is actually the bit where it's joined at the front. That's that bit here. It looks a little bit tricky to put together, but actually it's quite easy once you've sort of done it once. And I believe that Sewisfaction has got a little video about how to do this twist bit rather than just going from the photographic instructions in Tilly and the Buttons instruction pages. But to be honest, it's not too bad to follow if you really just sit down and have a read of it first before you start. The sleeves are just sewn onto the body pieces, and the back is cut as one piece across here, and then you've got 2 panels for the skirt, one for the front, one for the back. When I did mine, because I've added an inch of length to the back panel, I've actually cut 2 copies of the skirt panel and then done the adjustments on one of the skirt panels, because obviously it's different then for the back because it's an inch longer, but otherwise you just normally cut out one for the back and one for the front with the same pattern piece. But now I've got 2 separate ones because I've got that extra inch at the back. I think that's all the modifications I did initially. So when I tried this on though, I think that there needs to be a little bit more space for the bust. So I then went to do a second one, which I shall show you in a minute, but I just want to tell you what this fabric was. So this fabric is from Fabrics Galore, and it is a cotton elastane jersey. It's 42 centimetres wide, and 142 centimetres was plenty to cut the skirt panels on because they've got quite big pieces. You're going to need, I think it says 141 centimetres at a minimum, but I got it out of this fabric being 142 wide. And I actually sewed this out of a 2-metre piece of fabric, even though the pattern said, I don't know if it was 2.5 or 3 meters, although I did actually shorten the sleeve. The sleeves normally go to the elbow length or 3/4, the choices that you could have. But because I like short sleeves quite a lot, I thought I'd just modify them so that they're a short sleeve as well. When I cut the sleeve, actually, I cut the pattern at the first sleeve notch, so that's the length that I wanted it. So if you wanted to replicate that, if you just cut it across at the first notch, so that's the first one. I will pop some footage as well of me wearing it in the garden. And I'll get Barbara to show you my second version after that as well. So version number 2, and this is out of the same sort of stretch jersey, but actually it's made of 92% cotton and 8% lycra, and this gorgeous fabric was from a company called Elsa Fabrics, which is a new to me company. I will leave a link to both these fabrics in the description box down below, and I've noticed that they're both still available, so if you do want to get some, they're both still available. This one from Elsa Fabrics and the other one from Fabrics Galore, but like I said, links are in the description bar. So this is a really lovely fabric actually. I'm really impressed with this. I've not purchased fabric from that company before, but it is really lovely quality and really nice to sew. This is perhaps a bit more summery than the other one, being a blue, but I really like it, and it probably won't get much wear till next year because the weather's starting to turn. But I used exactly the same pattern, but I did make some further modifications to the bust area. Now the first one, if you saw the little video of me prancing in the garden, the shoulder seam across here was coming forward a little bit, so I was just thinking that the neckline needs extending, because I didn't want to add too much length to this bit here because it would make it a lot higher up where the V was. I didn't want it to come up too high, so I decided to add some length to the neckline here and the body of the top. So actually what I did was I slashed it across here. I'm not sure whether you can see this, but I slashed the pattern across here and then added this little rectangle of fabric, so that I'm adding length to the neckline but not to the armhole, if that makes sense. So it looks like a really funny shaped pattern, but actually this did help a lot. I was going to, you can see where I've been drawing lines on it to actually lower the neckline and add the length here, but I changed my mind and added it up here instead. So when I've tried this on though, I still think that there needs to be a little bit more room in the bust area, so I've actually just decided to angle this section here, so this inch there as well. So not only have I lengthened the bodice an inch, then I've increase this by about an inch as well, the neckline. So this is all giving a bit more room to the bust area because the bust was sort of pulling the neckline down. And then finally I have added an inch to the bottom of that seam length there just to make it fit that a little bit better. But I didn't do that last modification to this dress, but I think it still looks okay. To the eyes of a non-dressmaker, I don't think you'd ever notice, and I'd still wear it. They're still really comfortable, but I just think that it would look that little bit better with that extra inch on. So I'm hoping that my modifications make sense to you. When I've added a length just to the body, I've actually, hopefully you can see, so I've slashed into the pattern there and down, and the reason why I chose this point here was because I measured the distance between the widest part of my bust. So I basically chose these 2 points here and measured the distance between them, the fullest part of my bust, and then half that measurement I then went out to in the pattern piece, cut across and then down like a rectangle shape down there and across there, dropped it an inch to increase the length an inch without adding a dart at all. And then originally I did keep the length of this front seam line the same at the front, thinking that that inch should be enough in the body of the top, but it wasn't. So hopefully those modifications make sense. I think some people have said that this knot sometimes comes up a bit high on some people and lower on others. I think it just depends on the depth of your bust, of how your bust pulls the shape of the knot down. I think that it's in a pretty good place where it is, but obviously if I've added an inch now, that will probably rise up slightly, but I don't think it'll be too high, as I didn't want it sort of up here because I think that knot accentuates the bust area nicely. Anyway, I will stop rambling on and show you some video of me prancing around in the garden in it. So quickly, before Barbara disappears, I thought I'd show you the inside of the garment. So this is the first one I'd made, and it's got like a white inside because it's a printed fabric and the dye doesn't go right through, but you can still see what I mean. So I've joined all the panels with my overlocker, so I've done it in a white overlock thread because actually the inside of the fabric is white as well, so you can't see it very much anyway with it being in white. I could well have done it in grey, I suppose, but I thought it blended in better being as the inside of the fabric was white. You can see that I've used my cover stitch machine around the neckline where there's some binding as well. Of course you don't need to use an overlocker or cover stitch, and there is some clear elastic around the waistline and also in the shoulder seams at the top there, just to give it a little bit more stability. But it's a nice, easy, quite a quick make once you've sort of worked out how to do that twist bit. So there we are. Thank you very much, Barbara. So next I have some English paper piecing to show you. So I have been meaning to do this pattern for a while. So the lovely Emma from Vintage Sewing Box has designed a gorgeous little box that's hexagon shaped for keeping all your English paper piecing things in. And I wanted to make one. So I've already made one of her sewing cases that have got all the bits and bobs in. And in there I've got one of the needle cases that she designed. And I've got two of those because I've done one from my machine needles as well. And also this cute little pin cushion that Emma designed, which I had to make one. This is to park your needle when you've finished using it, or while you're using it really. Very, very useful. So I've got my little set, and I thought, well, I'm having to use the same fabrics that I've done for that set for my box. So I've done 3 of the florets so far. So they are all... So they're all in the same fabrics, and I've kept the little grey fabric with the dragonflies and the butterflies all in the centre portion here. And then they're in the Net Anderson range that I picked up ages ago, and I've still got quite a few pieces left, so I thought it would be ideal to make a box with as well. And in the box pattern you get to use this foam, which I haven't done before, and I know that Emma from Vintage Sewing Box has also got this foam for sale on her website as well if you're looking for it, because I didn't know what to sort of look for, but she's got the one that you need on her website, which is much easier than having to sort of look for it on the internet. So this is the base, and then these 6 pieces are going to be the sides. So I haven't cut out my fabric for that bit yet, but my foam is ready to go. So I'm really excited to make that one. I'm using these pre-cut hexaforms. These were actually recommended to be by Emma, but they're like a little fabric hexagons that you then stitch your fabric around, and then you don't have to take them out of the back, which is brilliant. And it gives them a little bit of puffiness so that it sort of stands... I'll show you this one that I've done. It stands just away from the... It just stands up away from the fabric and gives a nice texture. I think I did the back ones with the hexiforms as well, so it just stands up just a tiny little bit and looks really lovely. So definitely going to be using those some more. And I think I've got another 3 of the florets to do to finish the outside, but I have cut all my pieces out and I've clipped them together ready. I've just got to stick them to my little hexiform pieces, and I am using the glue method because it's very quick. I love it. So there we go, that's how far I've got with that one. So hopefully I have a bit more to show you other than just little flowery bits next week for that project. But I do have some cross stitch to show you, so I feel like I've got quite a bit done this week. So this pattern is a traditional sampler kit by Moira Blackburn, and that's what the sort of cover photo looks like. And this is how far I've got so far. Ta-da! So last week I'd just done the green bit of this tree and some of the sort of berries or flowers, whatever they are. I finished the berries off. I've done 2 there, and I've done this border bit. If you look really closely though, I've done the 2 1 square lower than it should be for some reason. So that's starting to really annoy me, so I might have to unpick it But there we go. I've nearly finished this side border here, and I think I was going to move on to the border this side before I do anything else next, but that has actually come up really quick. I said to myself that I would do 20 minutes every day. Sometimes I've done more than 20 minutes. It's difficult to stop stitching on, but I do find that actually having a routine of doing it in the mornings and just saying I'll do 20 minutes, half an hour, that is ideal for getting a little bit done each day, and I'm enjoying it as well as a bit of me time. Really nice. So that's that. I will leave a link to the pattern because, well, actually I bought mine from a charity shop, but they've re-released it, which is really weird. On my website as well, you'll be able to get a link to one of the UK stockists anyway. I think that the Ada in the new kits might be slightly different, but it's still the same sort of pattern. I think mine says 1982 on it, so it must have been in the charity shop a little while, or in somebody's spare room, waiting for me to start stitching on it. So there we go. I do have a couple of confessions. Oh dear. Right. I have been watching the lovely Sian from Kittenish Behaviour, and she's been sewing this lately. And I thought, I need that pattern. So she'd done a version like this dress here, but what she'd also done is taken the ruffles from around the neck on this version and actually put it on the front of this version, which I thought was really lovely. So I purchased this pattern, and this is the size range this pattern comes in is, I think it's 14 to 22, and I think I'm above a 22 really, but so I'll have to grade it up a little bit, which is a bit annoying. But I just couldn't resist. I'll show you the line drawings on the back as well. So there we go. So definitely I'd do the version with the ruffly sleeves and add that little bit of ruffle around the neck as well as the ruffles on the bottom. You can't get too many ruffles if you ask me. So the fabrics that you're supposed to sew this in, it says double georgette, crepe, crepe de chine, challis, oh, and that's it. So quite a drapey sort of rayon, I suppose I'd probably go for, but I'm excited to sew that at some point, although there's about 20 dresses I want to make. Right, so a knitting purchase now. So previously I'd been knitting the Way Through the Woods mittens, and I think it was by Erica Mount. I will leave a link in the description bar anyway. But I'd been knitting it in time because they were too tight and I didn't like the look of the colour work. They were a little bit tight on me. I probably could have got away with it, but I just thought the colour work looked a bit messy being so tight. So then I went and overcompensated using a 3mm needle. Started with a 2.5, went up to a 3mm needle, and then knitted them in these colours. And I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have to go to a 2.75. But then I've been looking at some pictures of some of the other projects for the Way Through the Woods, and somebody had done, like, I don't know if it was tealy colour, but something similar to this colour with white, and I just thought, that is gorgeous. The white looks like snow, so I've had to buy some of this. So this is a blacker yarn, and it's in the Jacob, it's in a Jacob base, which I can't find anymore. I think it was a limited run, but I did manage to get some blacker in the Shetland, which I think is a similar sort of, the way it's spun looks quite similar, because I thought that would be nice to sort of pair up with something that's quite similar to it rather than put it with a merino. These are relatively rustic yarns compared to merino. And I think the contrast of the snowy white with the teal is going to look fabulous instead. Goodness knows what I'm going to do with this now, we'll have to see. But I do like the contrast on that, and the fact that it looks like snow in the winter, absolutely gorgeous. I think what I'm going to do as well, especially because I've knitted these twice now, I think I'm going to re-cake them and then start from the other end of the ball so it's nice and fresh to knit with, because it's a bit wiggly, which annoys me a little bit. But that is going to be cast on very soon. This came this morning, so I haven't had a chance to use it yet. Otherwise I've started. So that is all my confessions. I'm very good. To be honest though, I have ordered more fabric. It just hasn't arrived yet. hopefully show you that next week. But I think they're quite boring ones, they're quite solid, so I don't know why I'm rambling on here. Just get on with it, Ellie. So I just have a couple of questions from the Ask Me Anything thread from the Ravelry group. I do have a couple more to answer, but I'm going to leave those till next week, just because the podcast is going to be a little bit long if I keep on chatting to you for hours on end. So I've had a question of Candice asking me what the yarns were for the Advent wrap. So hopefully I've answered that earlier on in the podcast, but thank you for the question, Candice. Sometimes I forget to tell you these things because I'm too excited about the pattern, really. And the next question I'm going to address today is from Raquel, and she was asking me about what embroidery hoops I use. So I just tend to stick to these two types, to be honest. I don't, oh, there is the sort of straight wooden frames, but I don't really like the way they work. So these are the ones that I use the most. It's a standard wooden circular frame, but I've just wrapped the inside with some calico strips of fabric just so that it protects your work a little bit as you're working it. I use this one with my lap stand. This goes under my leg, and then I can clip my work into here, and then I can sit anywhere really and just get on with a bit of stitching. I like having the stand because it just lets me have my both hands free, so I can use both of them to work, and it just makes stitching a bit quicker, I think. You can use these on their own, but I just prefer having some sort of stand to hold them on. Definitely recommend getting the stand to go underneath your leg. I will leave a link to where I got it from in the description bar as well. I think I just got mine from Amazon last time. I also use these clip frames. Sometimes they're by a make called Q-Snap, but this one isn't. This one's a cheaper version, and I actually picked this up from a charity shop for £1. And this is just really easy to get in and out. You can just clip it in really easily, and it's very, very easy to use. You can actually collapse it as well, so you can store it, but I leave it open because I tend to use it quite often. These sort of plastic framed ones are good because they're a little bit bigger, they're a little bit easier to grip onto, and you can make yourself a little fabric grime guard to collect all the excess fabric together to keep it out of the way, and also to keep the dirt off it if you're going to use it just in your hands. But I do use this one on my Lowery floor stand, so it's a metal frame with a clip that just holds my work so that I can use both hands to stitch with. I will leave a link to the Lowery floor stand as well in the description bar. So that's what I use for my embroidery. So thank you very much for that question, Raquel. I hope that's useful. I think that's all for today. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in the next episode. Bye!